So it should be easy to talk about Inside the Box this week because there were only four things technically actually, that I watched. Let's see. I was able to watch Sounds of the Sky. That one was really quite surprising. Now, you look at the character design, and like I mentioned, you almost think that you're looking at something that's a cross between K-On! And Strike Witches. But you watch it, and although some of the common personality traits are there, the show itself is really quite unlike either of the two of them. For a while there, initially, I almost imagined I was watching something more like Aria, in terms of it just being a calm slice of life. But then it started doing things hinting at things. It basically takes the idea of war more seriously than I thought it would. It's kind of hard to explain in detail what I mean there. I mean, the basic premise of the anime is our main character joined the military in order to learn how to play a bugle because of somebody she encountered as a young kid. It's simple enough. Um, but yeah, I guess I'm not quite sure how to talk too much more about it, other than to say I was actually surprisingly satisfied by it. Okay, there were a couple things about it that were a bit silly, but overall, it kind of set itself up to look like you should expect one set of things from it, and it delivered a different, more satisfying set. So it seems like the kind of anime aimed at people who like to casually watch things and be occasionally surprised. I think that would be the way I'd put it, at least. And then after that, let's see. I did most of that. I think I was doing that on the weekend, or maybe in the evening or something. It's subtitled only, so I wasn't doing it. I wasn't going through it too fast while doing work because I'm trying to work from home, or I was trying to work from home this weekend. In fact, that's why I'm not wearing an anime shirt. It's because, well, after my shower last night, there's no rush to change clothes because it's not like I'm leaving for work this morning. And I usually use that as the key to dig out an anime DVD or an anime shirt and put it on for the weekly update. So I don't always wear the anime shirts. Anyways, that's an aside. But I decided I wanted to look for something that I could watch while doing work without it distracting me too much. Basically something that's not too quick paced, not too action heavy, something that's dubbed. And what I decided to do is watch all of Fushigi Yugi. And, there's a lot of things that make it really easy to be critical about it, but overall, I thought there were a lot of neat things in it. Now, the OVAs, I'm kind of. Part of me can't help but think that they shouldn't have been made, but I'll talk about that later. First of all, Fushigi Yugi, the series, the concept is pretty straightforward. Two girls end up reading a book and getting sucked into it, and one of them is going to be the priestess of Suzaku, which is basically the god of the south, and he rules over the seven constellations. I think it's a Chinese zodiac thing. I assume it has connection to real life Chinese zodiac ideas, but I don't know for certain since I never researched this stuff. But I got the impression that there was maybe a hint of truth to it there. Sort of like how some anime would be based on a story like Journey to the West, where you know that it's not really about this crazy anime character, but about a monk who befriends various animals, or something like that. I've never actually read it, but that one, they take certain artistic liberties, and this one, they probably did the same thing as well, but I'm not certain. Anyways, it's definitely a shoujo. It's got a very heavy female audience in terms of a lot of the plot twists are relationship related, specifically. Oh, can he and she get together? He doesn't think so. Oh, now he does, but now she doesn't. It literally did that back to back for a couple of episodes and storylines. In fact, through most of the episodes and most of the storylines. It's kind of like they set up this great journey they're supposed to go on, and the plot twists they counter on that are important, but they aren't quite as important as the relationship between these people. And really, that's the biggest problem with Fushigi Yugi is it goes a bit overboard in that department. I mean, it's basically overflowing with a bunch of sappy, over the top romantic notions. I mean, I can go into details there, but some of those details would be a bit too spoilerific, so I can't really say too much. But overall, it was pretty refreshing to watch, and it went directions I did not think it would, and I did not actually expect it to produce a couple of man tears, which it did. I can't go into more details about those parts, but I can say that some of the parts struck me a little harder than I thought they would. Well, one of them I'm actually not as surprised about, I guess. Well, anyways, so the original Fushigi 52 episodes, I thought that was pretty good, acceptable series. If you have a tolerance for anime that tend to use something over the top, or specifically that use romantic drama over the top. The OVAs, I'm not quite as sure. The reason I didn't think they should be made is because it's more like it's not so much that they were bad ideas as much as it is the idea of if you can't make something right, you shouldn't do it at all, or something like that. I'm not sure if that's actually a good idea to follow. And that's like a distorted version of what a Thumper's mom told him in Bambi or whatever. But the problem, let me see. First of all, it almost felt like the writing for them was rushed and inconsistent in that, from the point of view of the world inside the scroll, I think the first OVA took place 50 years after the events of Fushigi Yugi, whereas in the second OVA it took place a couple of years after, but it is definitely a sequel to the previous OVA, so I can't help but think that either the book can shuffle around timelines, which I don't think it can, or they just didn't get something straight. Now, I don't think some of the details of what happened in the first OVA are too disrupted if you assume that it took place at a certain time or whatnot. But yeah, it unless I got something else about that mistake, unless there was something wrong with the dub or something wrong with the original version that was carried over in the dub, I don't really know. The third OVA was pretty much a sequel to the previous two in terms of timeline, not as opposed to story. Whereas the first two OVAs basically decided, oh, well, all that resolution we gave you at the end of the previous one? Well, okay. There's two resolutions to the series. There's the resolution of the journey, and there's the resolution of the romantic side, right? And in each of the OVAs, they say, oh, that resolution we had to the romantic side in the previous one? Yeah, you should forget about that. And so they basically start each one with, oh, wait, maybe they're not supposed to be together. And then it ends with, oh, wait, never mind, yes, they are. And then the next OVA comes out and it's like, no, wait, never mind, they are not supposed to be together. And then it ends and, oh, wait, never mind, they are. That was annoying. I mean, that's maybe a really good example of a over-the-top drama sort of stuff that you may have to get used to, because it wasn't quite that bad in the series, but that back and forth could definitely be felt, especially watching all the episodes in one big chunk like that. So there was that problem of setup, that problem of time period, and the final problem was they were really rushed too fast. The first OVA is, 3 episodes, and the second one is 6, and the third one is 4. The 3-episode one, they introduced a character who was ridiculously powerful, even compared to characters we saw in the first season, and they didn't really introduce him till the 3rd episode, and then they kind of had this really rushed, oh, blah, 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 blah. Some guy just reads real quickly what happens in the story, and then voila, he's defeated. Magically. It felt cheap in Rush. Now maybe they just ran out of budget, or maybe they ran out of material and decided they might not get a chance to continue the series, so they were just going to come up with a half-assed ending to the OVA. It's really difficult to predict because, the second OVA deals with the same evil character again, which kind of gets rid of the entire point of the first OVA, and then, yeah. And once again, it felt rushed. The basic problem is that, if you watched Slayers, you may actually have a pretty good feeling how you would have liked to see these sequential stories play out in that, each one could have been its own season or series, 12 to 26 episodes of content, sort of like Slayers, and it could be enjoyable in a lot of the same way, since they're doing a lot of the same stuff that they did before, but, you get to put them in new situations, and you get to, for the most part, milk people's enjoyment of the character personalities. I mean, I can complain about it a lot, but like I said, there were a lot of good things about it. Now, the OVAs kind of dumped some of these character personalities I liked. The slant-eyed straw hat person, he remained consistently entertaining throughout all of them, And that was certainly nice. He was an enjoyable character, and I actually liked the main character because she's kind of naively innocent in an amusing way. The kind of person who knowingly walks into a trap just because she smells food or something like that. Someone that you just, they're unbearably stupid, but for some reason you can't bring yourself to hate them. That could just be something unique to me. Anyways, third OVA was okay. It was paced better. There was maybe not as much exploring they could do. But anyways, the first two OVAs were definitely setting up something where it would have been better to see those as TV series. But at the same time, since they were OVAs, that probably means that they didn't have a huge budget to work on them in the first place. So it's a trade-off. And part of me feels like the reason they shouldn't exist is because they suggest something greater that could exist, but was never completed. Oh well. Anyways, according to Anime Planet, this means I made it to Fushigi Yugi without going crazy or insane. Now, I debate whether or not that's true, but I can agree that I was at least sane enough to update my status on the websites before moving on to the next. Now, actually, before Fushigi Yugi, the night before I was going to watch that, I did watch the first episode of Arakawa Under the Bridge. And this was actually just before the TV arrived, and the thing I realized is, I was kind of hoping that it was a kind of calm anime that maybe I could watch while working from home, even though I would be reading subtitles. But, no. Arakawa Under the Bridge is way too crazy. Now, I only watched one episode of that, and I would have watched more episodes in the evenings, except that I was trying to get through all of Fushigi Yugi. So, yeah. I did watch one episode of that, and it's pretty crazy, and I'm not exactly sure what it is, but something about it feels like the kind of humor that I don't normally care for. And I don't entirely understand that because it was still amusing. So it feels like maybe it's just rubbing me in the wrong way in some way. And I can't think of what it is. Oh well. In any case, since Reddit is going to watch Lupin III: The Castle Cagliostro, today, this is the last day I was working from home. It's only a coincidence that it was an anime DVD recording day. I watched the first DVD of Lupin III TV, although I found out, based upon the fact that it didn't feel like it was really the beginning of something introducing us to the characters specifically, I did some research and found out that they never actually released the first TV series here in the US on DVD. Excuse me. So it's actually the second 155 episode series. I don't even know if it's all of it, but that's what was released here. That said, I watched the first 6 episodes, and I feel like I'm introduced to the concept enough where the Castle of Cagliostro can't really throw anything at me. Lupin the Third is rather straightforward. You can probably jump in at any point, and the characters are very much themselves. They don't really change a lot. In fact, every story is pretty much a one-off story. They could almost end each story by killing a random person, and the next one that person would be there. Almost like old South Park before they established that Kenny dying is canon and all the episodes are sequential or something like that. If you understand what I mean. But anyways, the idea of Lupin the Third is really simple. Lupin. Oh wait, how do they pronounce it? Lupin. Lupin is actually a thief, and he has 3 companions. The sexy girl, the sharpshooter, and the samurai. And he's always being chased by a police officer who's trying to arrest him, and who never can. It's a very funny series to watch, actually. You know, it's pretty old, but I think it's actually aged very well. I mean, I watch it and I'm like, that thing they just did is stupid, and this show completely knows it. They did it at that time, even though they knew it was stupid, because they just could. It's maybe not over the top in any ways, but it's just amusingly absurd. Little things like, oh, let's melt down all this gold and then mold it into the shape of a car so we can drive it over state borders without them figuring out where it went. That's just absurd. But it's amusingly absurd. And I feel like all of Lupin the Third is probably a lot like this, and I can understand why a lot of people have a very high opinion of it. So I'm looking forward to watching the Castle of Cagliostro tonight, which is maybe a bad thing since I shouldn't have the raised expectations, but whatever. Anyways, that covers all the anime I've watched, and I've been chatting a whole lot, obviously, up till now, because there's a lot to say about Fushigi Yugi, and there's details here and there to complain about that. I'm not going to, because they're even more spoilerific than any spoiler I gave here. But anyways, that's everything I watched this week, and when you get down to it, it's actually a lot, although not a wide variety of series. So we'll see what this next week is like.